Things I look back at it I wore as a kid where I was like, what are you doing? Like a lot of the press looks for Evan Hansen.
We've all been
I was
there.
like, that suit is too small.
Ben Platt, actor, musician, and the OG Dear Evan Hansen. He originated the hit Broadway musical of the same name, took home a Tony for it in 2017, and even donned the iconic blue striped shirt and cast once again for the big screen adaptation in 2021. He also crooned moviegoers, this time a cappella, in the popular film franchise Pitch Perfect. Since then, Platt has broken into the music industry in his own right. In 2019, he released his debut solo album titled Sing to Me Instead. 2 more studio albums would follow, tapping into different sounds and genres that present his extraordinary range of musical inspiration. Today I'm going to be with the highly talented artist and performer himself, as we talk about where he first performed his own music.
This was the first room where I played it even somewhat publicly. I had played it for my friends, but never performed it.
What Pride Month means to him.
I also think it's the month where we get an opportunity to like revel in queerness and like brag about it.
And his current residency at the Palace Theater.
I think the idea of getting to be in a house like this and play just fully myself and share my own music, it feels like once in a lifetime like privilege.
I'm Chuck Arnold. I eat, sleep, and breathe music as the senior entertainment reporter at the New York Post. Come along with me and your favorite artists as we visit the places in New York City that have made the biggest impact on their music and careers. It all starts now. We started our day at the Bowie Hotel in the very same room where Ben first performed his own music. So how was it performing here for the first time your original music?
This was sort of like the first showcase. It was I'd been writing. I did Dear Evan Hansen on Broadway for a while, and then I left and spent the year after that writing my first record. And this was the first room where I played it even somewhat publicly. I had played it, with my co-writers and alone in my room, and I played it for my friends, but never performed it. And I think I came into the event expecting it to just feel like performing usually feels. Like I'm not necessarily someone that gets nervous or afraid to perform. I really love, I've been doing theater my whole life. I loved singing, and I don't get necessarily like jitters, just like nice butterflies.
Right.
But I got incredibly scared. I just got really bad stage fright in like the couple of hours leading up to the show. And I think I took for granted like how different it was going to feel performing my own music.
Song. How were the nerves different? Because I'm sure it's a different kind of nerves versus Broadway.
Yeah.
When you're doing your own music, right?
Totally different. I mean, in theater, it's like you can get nervous that something's going to go awry, but at least you know exactly what's supposed to happen. And when you're doing your own show, it's like it's entirely your call. Like there's so much freedom, and it's like very shapeless, and so I just felt so much more control than I'd ever felt before, which is just a scary thing for the first time. And then also write almost only about like very vulnerable things, just because that's all I'm really inspired to do as a writer, is just like my relationships or my mental health or whatever I'm experiencing that feels, emotionally volatile enough to want to write a song about. So I think I also didn't necessarily think leading up to it how exposing that would feel to sing that for strangers.
It's a different kind of you're exposing yourself, right?
Exactly.
Do you think that there was any kind of like maybe stigma or anything like coming from Broadway to doing like your own original music? Because it's not a transition that everybody makes.
Totally. I think even in the sort of 6 years since I started, it's gotten better and better, and the myth is sort of being busted that there's this huge difference. But yes, at the time, particularly coming off of Evan Hansen, I think people expected a very particular musical theater sound and type of thing, and I think that there is like an earnestness and like a seriousness that comes with being from the theater that sometimes pop music in particular is very against. Like I think pop music loves apathy and edginess and a lot of things that are not doing 8 shows a week and telling a story and crying and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So yes, I think totally. But I think I think when people saw that I really was serious about sharing my own perspective and being transparent about my experience, and also that the songs just had their own sound that wasn't necessarily just musical theater, I think that some of that dissipated.
How would you describe your evolution as an artist from the first one to the third now?
You know, I think it really, I mean, as I'm making records, I really am not necessarily thinking about like what is the next move I'd like to make. Like, I think I really try to respond just as instinctually as possible to what feels like the musical manifestation of what I'm going through. So it has changed in these 3 records. For example, I'm like a super vocal forward artist. I'm very much a vocalist. And so I think in my early stuff, when I first started making music, I felt a great pressure and desire to make sure that every song was a sort of a vocal showcase in some way.
Yeah, we want to hear the voice.
Of course.
You got that.
Of course. But I think now I feel confident enough as a songwriter and as a sort of an artist with my own point of view that I can allow the songwriting and the storytelling and the sound to be the focus, and that my voice can do what it needs to do for whatever that given story is. And I think that this album really feels like sort of a little bit of like an exhale in terms of like just sort of allowing things to come out as organically and authentically as they can.
I mean, it's a very personal album, and I mean, I love that. And like, it's very intimate. You always have had kind of an intimate connection with your fans.
Yeah.
And they've been riding with you for a long time, since the Dear Evan Hansen.
Yeah.
So tell me about that and like your ability to expose yourself so nakedly. I mean, it's not easy.
No, and it's been tough. I mean, I think even in the last few years, it's been a challenge to, I think, with the pandemic and just being an actor and things come out and some things don't go well and some people don't like certain projects and they like other projects, and critique is everywhere. And so
for sure,
when it comes time to make another record and put yourself out there again and as yourself, each time it's a little bit of like a leap off the cliff because it's just super exposing. But I think I'm very grateful to my fans, particularly. I mean,
you have like Stan. I mean, they are a hardcore fan. I have been to Ben Platt shows, and they're hardcore.
They're good people. I think that the common thread I found is like an embracing of earnestness and compassion and warmth, and that you're not coming to my show to see like something super aggressive or super hard or super edgy. And I love artists like that, and I love to consume them as a listener. But I think that's just never been organic to me. I wear my heart on my sleeve. I'm a very vulnerable
You're the feels
person.
guy. You're all the feels. You're all the feels.
So I think my fans hopefully appreciate that, and I think that particularly as a queer person, having a lot of queer fans who feel like their relationships and the specific complexities and experiences of being in a queer relationship are reflected in my music, I think is something I love to see in my audiences.
Well, I love to see that. I got my LGBTQ hat on here.
Hey.
So, But, what would you say to the Ben Platt who performed at Bowery Hotel all those years ago? What advice would you tell him if you could go back in time, and what would you change if you could?
I would tell him that the outfit's good because I was second guessing it at the time.
What was the outfit? Okay, what was it?
It was like these like vintage kind of like gray jeans, this like overshirt, this like shacket. It was like checkered white and black and white, and then a tank underneath. It was cute. It was nice and timeless.
Nice.
I would wear it for this cycle. There are things I look back at that I wore as a kid where I was like, what are you doing? Like a lot of the press looks for Evan Hansen.
We've all been there.
I was like, that suit is too small. But, but I would tell him, you look good, don't worry about that. And I think I would just tell him to like stand in his power a little more and be like a little less apologetic. I think at first I was like, I felt like, am I only getting this opportunity because I was in Evan Hansen? Is it just that people want to hear me sing more songs by Pascal Paul? And, is that all that this is? And I think when I started to really prove myself as a songwriter and show that I had my own voice, I started to gain some of that confidence. So I think I would have just told him like to trust in what you've made and take a deep breath and just be proud of the songs you wrote.
Well, I love that. Here you are now, and thank you for taking us back.
Oh, of course.
All right. After discussing the start of his solo music career, we headed over to he and his fiance's go-to date spot in the Village. Then, here we are in the middle of gay America.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'm just going to say that's what it is, right? We're at the most iconic corner of the LGBTQ community, and this restaurant has a real special meaning to you.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Tell me about it and why it's special to you and your fiancé.
Well, I mean, the whole area, like you said, in the West Village is sort of like when you dream of coming to New York, especially as a queer person, that's the area you hear about, and that's the area you want to be part of. And I moved here when I was 18, so for my whole first decade of being a New Yorker, spent a lot of time down here where I made a lot of friends, where I hung out with my friends. You know, we got Marie's Crisis down here, which is my favorite musical theater bar.
There
we got
you
the
go.
Duplex, where I saw lots of cabarets. And then this is Joseph Leonard, which is super cute, really delish little restaurant. Been on many first dates here, good ones, really bad ones. And most importantly,
We've all been there. We've all been there.
my fiance Noah, we were friends before we were together, and he,
Really?
yeah, he's the one who sort of turned me on to the spot in the first place. But
I need to hear that story. How did that happen?
Well,
How
we met.
Yeah.
We were like 19, 20 years old, doing a web series that never saw the light of day, like a comedy web series.
Okay.
And we immediately had like an attraction to each other,
All right.
and started dating pretty quickly, like hooking up for like 3 months, and then
I love it.
I panicked and like took a step back, and I sent him like a long text message, and I was like, we should just be friends, and you know, we're so young and we don't know what we want, and blah blah blah. Basically, I was just afraid. I didn't know it at the time, but basically
But you were young.
he really
You were
saw
young.
me, and I was scared. So he was like, you know,
He really saw you. I love that.
You
He
know?
really saw you.
so we were friends for a while. I mean, he was a little pissed for a minute, but then we were friends, and we were kind of will they, won't they. And then finally, towards the end of 2019, I sort of came to my senses, and
And you saw him, I guess.
yeah, exactly. Well,
Yeah.
I knew how amazing he was, but I guess I didn't realize that. I don't think I understood how close, like a loving friendship is to like a partnership. I think I expected that they would feel like such a different experience, such a different feeling, but ultimately he's, you know, I'm in love with him and I'm attracted to him, but he's also just my best friend. So it's, thankfully I
beautiful.
figured it out.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
since being together, especially post-pandemic, this is definitely a favorite spot of ours. It's very romantic. It's very neighborhoodly. It's a great place to go after theater because they're open nice and late. So
Nice.
it's a
I mean,
favorite
that's you
spot.
need a New York spot that's open late, right? But this is also like, I mean, it's my stomping grounds when I first moved to New York, before I even came out. So, like, tell me how this was special to you and what the area means to you and other places that had significance. I mean, we're right across from Stonewall.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the center of sort of the fight for queer rights is like right here in this neighborhood, particularly with this loud truck. And
New York, this is New York realness.
yeah, of course. This guy knows.
Category New York realness.
Category New York realness. This guy knows. Call me. So yeah, this is like where it all went down, and I think you can still feel that everywhere. For me, as like a theater gay, and just a gay in general, and just a New Yorker in general. Again, this is like the place that I, in my mind, sort of in my fantasy of being part of this city.
The community,
like this is where
yeah.
you dream about being, and it doesn't disappoint. It's like it's a very, you know, it's become a lot more broad appealing, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I
Right.
think that people, not just queer people, hang out down here anymore because they realize how cute and great it is. But it will always.
Everybody realizes that show tunes are great. Come on.
Exactly, and that you can see great performers
Yes.
all over here. But it will ultimately always, I think, belong to queer people.
Absolutely.
This area.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I just feel super comfortable and safe down here. I always have.
I want to talk about a couple songs on that album.
Sure,
that kind
of course.
So, All American Queen, one of my
Yes.
favorites.
It's in the American dream, a red-blooded all-American queen.
So, tell me about that song, and I mean, because you're letting like all the Queen is coming out.
Yes, I was super inspired. I wrote it with Alex Hope, who's one of my favorite collaborators, and they're also queer, and we were just obsessed with this idea of like there's so many great like American origin story anthem songs like Sweet Child of Mine and just like all
Yes,
of these like
yes, yes.
back of the pickup truck like open road songs.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of them that are expressly queer, and so we love the idea of writing about like a young kid growing up in America who is like deeply and even like cliche American and traditional like apple pie and red, white, and blue and all those images we know to be very like American images.
Flip it a
But
little
he's
bit.
incredibly flamboyant. He's
Yeah.
a queen. He's
Yeah.
a dry sense of humor. He has dolls. His walls are pink. Like, I just think that is part of the fabric of America. Always has been.
Okay.
Like just because
Even
you
if
know,
we didn't talk about
exactly,
it out loud, it's
you
always
know,
been there.
even though we didn't treat those young people the way they should be treated
Yeah,
for a long
yeah.
time, they've always been there. So I just love the idea of something being deeply American and also like deeply gay.
I love that. And Pride, what does that mean to you? because Pride Month, we're right around the corner. It's coming, my favorite time of the year. What does it mean to you, and like, do you have special traditions?
I don't really have traditions. I think it's just, for me, it's an opportunity to celebrate, like, I mean, obviously we always want to be talking about our history and about the ongoing fight against, like, anti-trans and anti-LGBTQ legislation and
Yes.
all the things that deal with, like, the sort of, like, oppression element of things. But I also think it's the month where we get an opportunity to, like, revel in queerness and, like, brag about it and talk about
I love
how,
that, brag about it.
you
Talk
know,
about it. I didn't think about that.
because it doesn't only, you know, I think we're past the point where it's like, we're equal human beings. Like, of course we are. There are ways in which even more so it makes us like special human beings, compelling human beings. Like just like any other part of your the facet of your personality, or the fact that you're an artist, or the work that you do, or who your partner is, or what your hobbies are. Like being queer informs a lot of things about me. The way I dress, my sense of humor, the things I like to watch, things I like to sing. So I think the opportunity to just celebrate that culture is like what I love to do.
I love that. And wedding plans, because you know the engagement is on. First of all, like when did you get engaged?
A while ago. We got engaged. Well, actually, not that long. November of 2022. So it's been like a year and a half.
Okay.
And we're getting married in the fall. So it's time to pedal the metal.
You got plans? Like what's on the agenda?
It's all planned. It's all private.
Nice.
But we're doing it in Brooklyn.
Okay. That's where you live.
In the fall, yes. Okay. With all my big Jewish family and Noah's family and our friends, and we're gonna dance the night away, and
wow,
that's it.
Well, mazel tov.
Thanks.
We continued our conversation at the legendary Palace Theater, where Ben has a residency from now until June 15th, performing his original music along with a selection of Broadway favorites from past and present. So here we are. You'll be opening the Palace Theater with the Queen, Judy Garland.
Shrine to Judy right here.
Yes. So tell me about why this means so much to you to have this residency here to bring this new era.
I mean, to be in a Broadway house always feels like really special. Like literally walking into any Broadway house site makes me so excited to perform. But this is beautiful and it's refurbished and it's new. But most of all, it's like it carries this incredible history of Judy, obviously Liza, Harry Belafonte, Josephine Baker, Diana Ross. Like it's an amazing place where really individual, incredible, unique performers come and just be themselves and do their own bag, and I think the idea of getting to be in a house like this and play just fully myself and share my own music, it feels like once in a lifetime like privilege.
You're gonna be having residency for 18 nights, right?
18 shows, that's
18
right.
shows. I mean, I think that's gonna be, it's a beautiful, like an intimate space, relatively, because you play arenas as well.
Oh yeah.
So how is it going from arenas to theaters and back and forth?
You know, it was really fun to have that arena experience and see how I could expand my sound and the way I perform, and it's such a beautiful experience to get to have as an artist, but I think I will always crave some level of intimacy. I mean, this is still pretty beautiful and grand, but I love being able to really feel and see the audience and feed off of them and connect with them. I feel like that's kind of the whole reason I like to do it. And Broadway houses generally, I mean, some are on a little bit of the bigger side, some are a little bit like even almost black boxy, but the general like average of a Broadway house is just the perfect size, like somewhere in the 1,000, 1,500, where it's like big enough that it feels like a big exciting night, but small enough that we feel like we're all having one experience together.
I gotta ask you because, at a certain era, gay men were known as like friends of Judy.
Friends of Dorothy, right?
Friends of Dorothy. So tell me about that, because that's she has a special place in the gay community, and we gotta give her love for that, right?
Yeah, I think that both in terms of consciously supporting us and loving us as her audience, and just subconsciously in the way that she is so unabashedly herself and strong in her convictions and in her individuality. She's a queer icon, and she always has been. She's
kind of the OG queer icon, I think.
Truly. So
Pretty much,
she's right at the crossroads of like what inspired me to want to perform, and also just what helped me realize my queer identity. So she's the queen.
Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high.
You'll be feeling her spirit on opening night. I'm going to be here to see you and cheer you on.
Oh.
Thank you for doing this with us.
Thank you so much.
All right, man.
What a pleasure.
Yes, it's been really great. Don't forget to check out Ben's new album, Honeymind, wherever you get your music. And go get your tickets to see him live at the Palace Theater in New York City from now till June 15th.